Corpulent Geek and SciFiChristina.
We're live now.
I
hope
knew
you
you were
know
going to do it too.
Of course I was. Hello, everybody.
Woohoo!
Sorry, that's our intro, and I'm going to snippet that out and use that all the time. Oh, no, I just realized I don't have your handle up.
I got to mute my computer.
Oh,
Sorry.
no. Oh, great. Her audio's coming through. It sounds awesome. It sounds like you've watched too much Captain Underpants lately.
Yeah, I know.
Anywho, hello, everyone. This is the Corpulent Geeks Threatened Ganglia podcast. My lovely wife's here, making things beep over there in the corner.
Everything I touch makes noise.
Yeah, that's right. And sorry we didn't have an episode last week, but someone had to go off on a cruise.
Yes, you did.
Yes.
And it was glorious.
But, you know, not only are we bringing you episodes this week and next week when we talk about the finale, but when the show goes on hiatus for the winter break, we are going to do some vodcasting on Sunday nights, hopefully, if everything works out right, of recaps of the book that my wife is reading. What's the name of that book?
The name of that book is Star Trek Discovery Desperate Hours by David Mack.
So that first week when there's no Discovery episode, tune back in here and we're going to give you a little taste of what the book's about and hopefully maybe even entice you to buy it and read along. And so that way we can keep the Discovery train rolling.
Woot.
Yeah. All right. So that was our Clear All Moorings. Oh, my lovely wife, she can't see our display this time, so she can't see all the cool little names I have up across the bottom for everything. Because, you know, we name all our little sections of the podcast. So,
but I am monitoring the live feed so I can see that they're
okay.
here.
So you see the... Ooh,
right?
look at you.
Right?
Very
Yeah.
good. You pointed the right direction. All right. So now we're entering the all ahead full impulse section of our discussion where we briefly recap the episode. Super briefly, so don't worry. Because, of course, we all just watched it. No one's going to listen to this vodcast or watch this vodcast or listen to the podcast and not have seen the episode. That would be silly. You just saw yourself pointing, didn't you? The whole rest of this thing is going to be her laughing at stuff she did already.
Because I'm hilarious.
Oh, you even said hello in the chat room. That's great, honey. Hi. Hopefully Fred's here watching us, our friend from work. We see you, Fred. Anyway. All right. So this past week, episode started off with the USS Gagarin getting itself blown up pretty badly by a whole bunch of Klingon warships that were cloaked coming in and shooting the hell out of it. And it ends up getting destroyed despite the Discovery's best efforts, and Discovery hops on out of there. Then cut to Pavo, which is a planet where our heroes, Saru and Tyler and Burnham, transported down to. And they're walking around and they're trying to find this transmitter thing because it's going to turn into something cool for the good guys to try and detect the cloaked vessels. And then smash cut to L'Rell showing up on the sarcophagus ship. And apparently she wants to be with Cole now. Can that be true? No, that can't really be true. And then we go back to Pavo. And we go from searching for this transmitter thing that the signal's beaming out into space on an uninhabited world. We quickly go from that to worrying about General Order 1 because they detect that there's something that seems to be like a life form out there. And then we go into First Contact because, oh yeah, this thing totally seems sentient, and so we're kind of hosed. And they go into this yurt that's over there because for some reason incorporeal beings need a yurt to be able to hang out in.
I like to believe they're just that hospitable.
Well, yeah, but I don't know. We'll see later.
Back to the sarcophagus ship and Cole. L'Rell offered her services as an interrogator to get back on his good side. He said, you know, if you can get some information out of Cornwell, then maybe I'll let you in the group. So Laurel goes to interrogate her and brings in a lot of sharp, pointy things, but then she screams in her face, and Cornwell screams back, and it was just a ruse, and now it seems like she wants to just chat with Cornwell, so who knows what's going on there. Then we go back to Pavo, and Ash and Michael share a tender moment, and it's all adorable, but who is Ash? Saru then... Oh, I've lost my place. Sorry. Oh, yeah. So then Saru gets a major migraine from the sound of this planet, and he rushes outside and asks for help, and they fill him up with some blue light. He flashes back to all of his scarediness, and then he comes in the next morning looking like he's got the best night of sleep, and he's like, everything's cool, guys. Come on. I just need your communicators. And then he crushes them in his apparently incredibly strong hands.
Yeah.
So then we're back on the sarcophagus ship. Laurel and the Admiral are moseying to an escape. They're just walking. They were like walking down the hallway, just like chit chat. It's like, hello. Some stealth probably would help, but no. And so then they have to pretend to fight to the death, or did they? When they get caught. So then we're back on Pavo, and Tyler is distracting Saru to try and give Burnham some time to run to the... I kept trying to call it the crystalline entity. Every time I saw that thing, I kept going, is this like the crystalline entity's birthplace?
Nah, that thing wasn't on me. But, all right, hold on. Then we're just recapping.
No, it's all right. So she's running to set up the communicator and to the crystal tower. And Saru figures out by using his little greenstone lie detector that Tyler was actually distracting him, and he gets really mad. And so then he uses his then I think he just runs out to go get her. And then we're back on the sarcophagus ship again, and Laurel is dragging Cornwell's body to the body room, I guess, and she discovers
the body room.
I think that she discovered members of her crew that had been loyal to Kovma, and who apparently Cole had just decided nope. And discarded them in parts.
Yeah, he needed some half bodies.
Yeah, it was like, okay. And she swears some major vengeance. So she looks like she's not very happy.
Yeah. And getting back to Pavo, Michael's rushing to try and contact the ship. I like the use of the old school tricorder there. And so she's connecting to the big crystal transmitter. But Saru is using his super runaway speed that looks pretty awesome, even though it was like not the greatest CGI, but it was still cool to see my man Saru going out there. And he uses his donkey kick to kick the snot out of her and starts smashing the communicator with his fists. We'll talk way more about that later. So Michael's trying to reason with him, and it looks like she talked him down. But not really, because he's about to destroy everything. But luckily the Discovery shows up and beams them all up to the ship, even though at the beginning of the episode they couldn't beam down right next to the thing because of interference. But we'll let them slide on that one. Laurel gives Cole some useless information about the Discovery, and she's made to swear fealty to Cole, and she takes she kneels in front of him and takes the red paint face marks to the face, and then Cole's like, all right, you're part of the team, but I know that you've been lying to me, so off to jail with you. No, we'll talk about that.
Sure, it was jail.
Well, all right, the brig, the room with half bodies in it, whatever. The Klingons pick up a invitation from Pavo, which is apparently the signal that the Pavans are sending out now, instead of the sonar detector that the Starfleet wanted. And back on the Discovery, everyone's like, oh no, the signal's not doing what we wanted to. And oh no, the big sarcophagus ship that wrecked shop on us is coming here. And we have to defend the Pavans, even though they screwed the pooch and invited the Klingons here. So we're the only line of defense. Dun, dun, dun. Big epic battle next week.
So I noticed, because we did an excellent job of prep today.
We're jumping right in.
Well, yeah, we did jump right in, but we also, left out the scenes with Stamets and Tilly.
I did leave out the scenes with Stamets and Tilly, but I did mention them later on in the thing, but we didn't recap that. There were scenes with Stamets when... did you want to...
I was going to, yeah.
All right, go for it, sorry.
You're so excited. So right after they Black Alert jumped away from the Gagarin exploding, Stamets came out of the chamber a little disoriented, and when he looked over at Tilly, he was like, "Captain, what are you doing down here?" And that threw Tilly for a loop because she was like, are you talking to me?"
Field promotion.
Yeah, sure, let's go. And then he got his, bitchy face Stamets back on and was like, and she was like, "I'm sorry." And then later on the episode, she sits down with him in the mess to, figure what's going on, because she's cute and adorable that way. And she was like, "Tell me what's going on. Just let it all out." And he takes like 2 prompts and then is like, "Okay, here's the deal." And so they come around to a plan that neither of them seem to like, where they just, monitor what's going on.
Yeah, it seems like the least we will now do the least we can do.
Yes.
Pick up this storyline later on.
Yeah, we're just planting the seed that something's wrong.
Yeah,
which we kind of already knew.
Did we want to cover that episode in its entirety?
Not
that episode. I meant that little segment there with Stamets. We can talk about that first in our next section when we. Oh no! Oh. I never sent the other thing live. I forgot. Hold on. We screwed up there because just a second ago we were going all ahead full impulse because I can do these things now, and now we're at warp. Right. Talking about. This is the part where we talk about the episode. And so, yeah, we had Stamets, and we just kind of covered most of all the stuff. But I was thinking one thing in that discussion was Stamets was saying that I can't tell the doctor about this because, he's my man and everything, and I don't want to put him in that position. But it's been established before that Culber is not the chief medical officer of the Discovery. So if Stamets really... Fred's actually in the chat.
Oh, seriously?
Yeah, baby.
Fred!
All right, sorry. So Stamets could totally go to the chief medical officer if things got to a certain point. So that's not going to fly because we know that they're just trying to set up the dynamic of their argument amongst each other when there's like, "Why didn't you tell me about this?" Blah, 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 blah.
Clearly. Oh
Word.
my gosh, it seems to be.
Oh no. Yawning into the mic.
I know.
Good job. All right. So was there something else, some next part you wanted to touch on?
Did you talk all about Stamets with the pics?
Oh no, not with the pics.
Yeah.
That's true. Yes. All right. So I noticed that our boy Stamets, he's when he's in the spore chamber there, he looks like that. And it's cool. He's got those little augmented things that his doctor boyfriend made for him. But for me, it looks way too much kind of like this pose right there. So they are Jesus posing that bad boy up a whole lot, and it freaks me out a little bit. But I just like that.
His head back and everything is.
Yeah, that imagery too much. But I mean, it's a cool chamber thing, and all, but it's like a little bit like I don't know if we need quite all that.
Yeah, there's. I mean, obviously we've been seeing changes in Stamets' personality over the last couple episodes, and I'm guessing this episode maybe he's back to his grumpy self, because he's noticing the changes, or because he doesn't. He's disoriented, and it's upsetting him.
It definitely could be that,
or it's a different Stamets.
We'll cover some of that stuff in the Black Alert section, the final section. No, that's cool. Look, I'm even making a note of it in our show notes here to talk about that in the Black Alert section.
No.
So, but yeah, they're definitely setting up more than just the shrooms or just messing with them a little bit, I feel.
Did you want to go into talking about the spore drive?
No, I want to. I'll save that for if we got a little bit more time.
Okay.
Because that's a little bit more theory for me.
You want to pop back up to Cornwell?
Yeah. Let's talk about the Laurel Cornwell dynamic, because I definitely thought that was cool. I enjoyed getting to hear Laurel talk, even though she's got her spy on.
She's got her spy on.
Yeah. She was doing a good job in ingratiating herself to Admiral Cornwell, asking about things like, "Oh, how do you treat prisoners on your side of the thing?" When we know that she's super spy chick and knows exactly what goes on when the Federation captures someone. She knows she has to, because that's her job to know these things. So that to me is showing a little bit too much that she's setting up things.
She's setting Cornwell up.
Yeah.
To trust her as much as she can.
Yeah, and we'll hit a little bit of this on the back end of the Black Alert section for anyone that may not know. The final section of our vodcast here is going to be all theory-based and stuff that some people may not want to know about. So that's why we term it in the Black Alert section, so you know that you can skip that part before we're about to go into it, maybe like spoilery for the future. And talks about out there theories a little bit, and so I don't want to get too much into that. But one of the main things I wanted to know is Laurel's supposed to be this badass torturer and master interrogator, and why doesn't she have a better carrying case for her?
Oh,
yeah.
Excuse me.
Pardon me. Please. Yeah, she just takes one wrong step and then everything falls down.
I hate when that happens.
And
I hate when all my torture devices fall off their rack.
Yeah. If I were a good vodcast producer, I would have a picture of it right now. But there were tons of people that there was one shot of like through the torture device setup into Cornwell's face, and there was like a little what looked like a Delta, Starfleet Delta on one of the pieces. But I don't think that was really just a Delta. It just looked like to me that like this piece right here just happened to have that contour to it. But everyone was sure it was like, oh, they got that torture item from the Federation, Section 31, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, you guys just all need to slow down a little bit.
Slow it down.
Yeah, so let's see what in this section, what else with all that we can... Oh, I heard, I think it was in the After Trek part where they mentioned that there were a couple more scenes between those two that showed them more bonding, and especially later on during the fight, like, I can't remember what the exact line was, but like Laurel told the Admiral, "You surprised me." Mm-hmm. Like meeting you and talking to you and all, and she said, "You surprised me too." So like there was much more interaction that was filmed.
That makes sense.
Yeah, so I thought that was good. It sucks that it had to get cut to the floor. And the best thing I enjoyed about the fight was, of course, it was cool. They were both doing a good job, and a little puny human admiral holding her own for a few moments against a trained Klingon warrior. But there's one part where the admiral does that swing around thing and hits with the back of the fist right against the face, and it's like the things where someone punches Superman, because it's just all the hard exoskeleton-ish kind of face that the Klingons have, and like she hits it, and for a second she like recoils. I was like, hey. And then she immediately starts getting pounded on by Laurel. So I love that part when I saw that. Yeah, and we'll save some of the other commentary for the Black Alert section.
Okay.
So what do you want to talk about? Something in that episode that might have sparked something like...
Yeah, about to say, if we're going to jump to the... And I mean, the funny part of this little blossoming love between Tyler and Burnham is that I'm like, because I'm not the mushy person. And yes, obviously, I guess because the dynamics are kind of obvious to me. Burnham had been placed by Sarek among the humans to try and kind of find her place as a human, because she had been hiding in the cold logic world of the Vulcans for so long, and he realized that she was never going to be allowed to excel there. So now she's there, and she's gone through this tremendous trauma of being labeled the mutineer and having mutinied against her captain, who does end up getting killed, who's like her mother figure. And so then she finds out that Sarek had basically lied to her, and so she's I feel like she's breaking into being a human now. She's like, all right, I'm going to do this human thing. I'm going to have emotions, and I'm going to feel stuff. And so, I like this guy. I'm going to go for him. And so it feels like the setup felt kind of obvious. Like, of course, this is how she's going to react, and this is what we're going to do. And of course, this guy is buddying up to her, or maybe he's in love with her, or whatever.
Yeah, who knows?
So now it's left...
So many things out there.
It's left us to these scenes now where they're, romance is budding. And, I did do some other reading, and I find it funny in your notes that you were like, ugh, this kiss looked terrible.
Oh, to me, it looked like those birds that you put in front of a water thing and they bow down and then they come back up of their own accord. They just look like they just like kind of. And it wasn't until like
I didn't see that. Now, as much as I'm like, ugh, a love interest thing is going on, because I am kind of non-mushy that way. I felt like they played this one well, and I had done some reading by other women, and they were like, "Oh yeah, he had this whole speech where he's basically saying, if the war continuing means I get to still be with you, then let it continue." I mean, he's laying it all out there, and he's saying some pretty big things, and she's never had someone.
Pretty big, ridiculous things. Hey, let's let this war keep going and kill thousands, however many numbers of people, and as long as you and I can be together.
He's not trying to appeal to her logic side. He's appealing to her emotional side. And since she's like deep diving into doing that, she's like, oh wow, that was really romantic, because clearly she told him, my future isn't going to involve trout. My future is going to involve being back in a cell.
But my future is not going to involve trout. I am a bass girl.
So it is very mushy, but I felt like they did play making a connection pretty well, and I mean it's cute, it's adorable. It's just it's obviously ill-fated. I think that's why I'm constantly like, oh, this isn't gonna end well for you, girl.
It is obviously ill-fated, and honestly, like, I'm not bothered by the shoehorning of the romance into things. I was honestly just bothered by the look of their first kiss that they remember. But to me, it really was like they had two different, and like someone was behind them, like pushing them together, it seemed to me. Yeah.
And I mean, part of that maybe because maybe neither of them had ever had a human first kiss before. But
well, that's true. No. All right, I did not think that.
Yeah, so I mean, they truly are like adolescents in that regard, where this is all very new to him, as smooth as he is coming off of.
But no matter what theories you go with, if you're abiding like with how smooth he is, he would know how to smooch a chickie.
Nice. And I nod to the rest of the the Star Trek universe. Oh, sorry.
It's okay.
The needs of the many line was like, really?
Okay.
All right.
I don't know.
Now it makes me think like that was taught like specifically at Starfleet Academy.
I had always thought that it was an actual quote out of Dickens' Tale of Two Cities, because like they use so many other quotes in that movie leading up to that.
I thought it was like
I went today.
Was it Dickens?
Yeah. Yeah, it was definitely a tale of the best of times, the worst of times.
Yeah.
It was definitely that was the book that he had borrowed. But like I went today to try and find it, and it seems like no, it really was made for Star Trek. That quote, and people just seem, but there's still some people online that said it was in there. I don't know. Of course, now she's going to be distracted like seeing a squirrel, and like, ooh, I got to go and dig this. So now we've lost Christina for the rest of the episode until she comes across something that she believes in.
I'll find it.
Yeah, she will. All right, so while she's looking that up, I already talked about how the interference, the MacGuffin of them having to walk all the way there, but that wasn't really. I like how Laurel mentioned Kayless in this episode, and she's the only one I've seen so far that has an all white outfit. And I remember when Kayless made an appearance somehow in Deep Space Nine, he was dressed in all white. So not only did I like that, but I feel like, and this isn't even like out there theories, so I think we can cover this part now, that Laurel is going to be the one that comes out kind of in the lead of the Klingon Empire at the end of all this, because she has honor. What were my other reasons?
She's not a fanatic.
Yeah, she
has,
and she wants to unite the Empire. She's smart. Yeah, so and because we know it can't be coal, because otherwise, things would look a lot rougher, and all the Klingons would have red face paint. But I really do think it's a good chance that she's the one in charge of this afterwards.
And I wouldn't be upset at that if we are seeing like glimpses of the true Laurel.
Yeah.
She even in the very beginning when she was talking with Voke. As long if she's been a master manipulator all the way from the beginning, then whatever. It doesn't matter, because I
that's true. Now we have to look back on that scene where should we decouple and be was
she just
playing him there?
Playing him because he had been anointed like the next leader.
Well, I don't know, because at that point they were still stuck. Like, they were trying to do their best job of escaping, because they were stuck for some reason 6 months without any food or anything.
And then they just thought about going over and getting the power cell.
No, she had always thought about that, but Voke was against it because it was impure, because it was from it was their thing. That's like a big time Apple fanboy being like, no, I won't allow an Android device in my house. That's super hardcore. So do you find that quote yet? Can I get you involved back in this yet?
That is, it sounds like it reflects a philosophy called utilitarianism, but it is not, I think, a direct quote from anything. I think it really was written for yeah,
and so that's a lot. That makes it a lot cooler.
Oh wait.
Uh-oh.
Wait.
Uh-oh. She's backtracking now, everyone.
Wait.
She's looking.
I've actually found a chapter of, and I've read A Tale of Two Cities, but I don't.
Well, we all have, right? Everyone, 9th grade, 10th grade, something like that. I didn't read it
in school. I read it by myself, I don't know, a couple of years ago.
Oh God, you're such a dork.
What? It's a classic.
A couple years ago?
Yeah, somewhere in our marriage, because I think it was free too on.
You had that kind of
Amazon
time?
Library. I read voraciously when I do it.
That's why I gave her the assignment to read that Star Trek Discovery book.
And that's why
because
I got it done.
I's dumb and I reads really slow. So if she
I think I read half of it on the flight back.
Half of it?
Yeah, I was
on a 2-hour flight back.
Yeah, on a 2.5 hour.
Wow.
Or in the airport beforehand, because we were in the airport 95,000 hours before that flight. But yeah, most of it on the flight back. It was an easy read. So if anyone is interested in picking it up, it reads like
hopefully we
episode,
can entice people
really
to get that. Oh, I want to go back to Laurel and Cornwell for just a second. Admiral Cornwell's alive, right? Because they
wouldn't show her over and over again.
Yeah, they showed her. They showed her over and over again a lot. And unless Laurel is planning something like a Weekend at Bernie's thing to get back on the Discovery that way, I don't think that she's dead. And especially since they had her the actress that played Admiral Cornwell, I don't remember her name right now. Ooh, I printed that stuff out at work today. A good producer would have that with him, right, Fred? Anyway,
I think we've proven today.
Hey, shut up!
You're not a good producer.
Hey,
that we are not. Oh, Fred's leaving.
At least, well, I'm kicking him out because he called me a bad producer. I'm the only one allowed to do that.
Oh, nice.
Anyway, all this stuff I'm going to have to cut out for the podcast. We should stop talking about Fred. Yeah, so no Weekend at Bernie's, so she's most likely dead. All right. Yeah, we're cruising along here. Was there any other points you wanted to touch on, my dear, while we're here at Warp? She's thinking. While she's thinking, let me jump in there with my one little thing there. I think that they're setting up Lorca to be kind of like the bad guy that Chewie Pettifors played in Serenity.
I can't believe you said it again.
Of course, I'm going to say it every time I can. How do you say his name?
Cheweedle
Ah.
I made it a point to learn how to say it because I really enjoy his acting. I don't know what the B is. He's nice to look at.
The B
but also
is
the B is like I always make it a point to figure out how to pronounce people's names because the entire world isn't populated by John Smiths, and I think that it's something that we all should go out of our way to do, especially someone that we may encounter in the future in things.
We'll see if we ever do encounter him. I'm going to say, hey, and then I'm going to point at you and you say his name. And then I'll be like, we love your stuff. You're a great actor. So every time I point at you, you would say his name in the conversation.
I see.
But yes, I do agree that we should learn people's names and not everyone's a John Smith. My problem is that I forget people's named John Smith. So I stand no chance. So Chewie Pettifors is.
Oh my God.
Let me tell you, that's a good nickname. But anyway, I think that they're setting up Lorca to be along his lines from that movie because one of the things that stands out from that movie for me is that he was fighting a war and creating a world that he knew that he couldn't live in. And I think that that's exactly what Lorca's doing. He's proven that he wants to win this war for the Federation, but the steps he's taking and the things that he's willing to do for it, like he can't live in the Federation that comes about after this. The more utopian one that's all goody two shoes.
I don't think that he'll be able to function in a in a world that isn't at war. Because when the world is at war, you can constantly, just like he told the crew at the beginning, there will be a time to mourn, and this time is not that.
Yeah.
And so he's very good at doing that. And once there isn't a clear and present danger in their faces and he has to mourn, he's going to be so overwrought with guilt. I mean, he blew up his entire last crew. So I think that there's so many things that he's like breaking inside, and he's just keeping himself, contained. And then once this war is done, he wouldn't be able to function anymore.
Yeah, I'll be so happy if they do a breakdown scene with him, and he specifically calls out about how Ash Tyler made it through 7 months of incarceration. He came out the other side. Why'd I have to kill my whole crew? I really want that to happen.
Yeah.
All right, so this part is going to have to move down to Blacklight. All right, so looking over our notes, hon, anything else you needed to discuss now? And before we get to...
I mean, you've mentioned it twice, but the MacGuffin of them being able to beam up next to that crystalline thing could just be that the Pavans were like, oh... we were interfering with your thing. Here, let us help you with that.
That is definitely true. Or the fact, like, whatever equipment they had hooked up to it, they canceled out the interference that they were calling. Hey, my brother's here.
Hey.
Yeah. So believe me, I'm definitely one willing to go. It's just like every so often one of those things stands out.
Oh yeah.
One of the hand waving things. So now I'd like to talk about the big part of this episode for me personally was Saru and everything that he did and all the actions that he took. I enjoyed the early parts of it and kind of the late parts, but I was still worried about some stuff. So I like how we found out that he can haul ass when he needs to get away from his apex predators. I never want to hear that phrase again. I don't know why it's turning me off so much. You definitely don't want to read the
book then.
Oh, no. Can you go through and like change, like white out apex predators and just put lions? Come on, we all know what that means. We're humans. Yeah, so that he can run and haul ass, and I love the fact that he has hooves for his feet, and he used that donkey kick thing, because when that fight was starting to go down, and like she grabs his arm in a weird way to try and get him to stop beating on that stuff, and he goes and like tosses her behind him, and I'm like, well, that's not good. You never want to put your bad guy back there. Oh, unless you can kick like that, then you want to get him back there.
Yeah, and she totally reacted like, I just got a hoof to the sternum.
Yeah, so not a lot of people seem to catch on with exactly how fearful all the time that Saru was. So I'm glad that they took the opportunity to like spell it out literally for everyone, because I picked up on that from the first couple things, because we are such kindred spirits with that.
It's almost like they wrote you into a part.
It really is, because at this moment, these little backdrop posters that I have set up, I'm thinking to myself how thick the cardboard is, and if it comes at the right angle, how it could slice through my neck and I would be dead. So there's never a dull moment with me. See this microphone thing? If I turn the wrong way, yeah, this is foam padded, but inside there's pointy sharp stuff that could go right in my eyeball and kill me.
What?
You never know.
No, you do know.
If you go with the right, your brother was here and he had this whole thing taken apart the other day, and there's more metal in there than I thought, and there was some pointy metal in there, so I've squirreled that away in the back of my head. But anyway, I digress. Yeah, so
I did marry him.
Yeah,
and we do live together. It's fun,
and we made children for me to worry about. What the hell was I thinking? So I completely understood that Saru went through his entire life always worried about everything. And
I want to know, not only you had asked this question, like how he could be a trusted member of the crew, but how did he pass any sort of psych evaluation to become a member of Starfleet?
Well, all right. If anything, I would want one of Saru's species on every ship. in the fleet, because he's going to do things like that I do that point out things to worry about. But when you and I are driving down the road, it's like hey,
best risk managers.
Yeah, we try. And yeah, even just strap him to the deflector dish on the front of the ship if you have to. I don't care. He like knows about all this kind of stuff. Now, putting him in a position of authority over everyone else. Oh, hey, my mom's here too. Wow, I'm shocked. Putting him in that like first officer spot it could have been a little hit and miss, because like up until this episode, people have thought of him in like kind of a cowardly way, and I didn't necessarily think cowardly, because he still stepped up and was trying to and was a captain and still goes out and explores. Even though he's scared all the time, it's way easier to crawl into a deep dark hole than it is to go out exploring. So that took a lot of damn courage. The fact that he was willing to sell out his friends and like think that he knew what was best for them and in staying there, that shows that, yes, truthfully, he should have failed a psych evaluation if he was willing to do this. But I guess that maybe during the psych evaluation process, Saru could never have even imagined a time that he would feel at ease. And so he couldn't even pretend to be truthful with himself as to how he would react to experiencing that. Mm-hmm. So that's why I'm hoping that he flung so far off the deep end. Like I kind of equate it in my head with someone that's an addict that just starts drugs and they take their first hit or whatever it is that they do, and immediately love it and are addicted to it, and just, the old adage of selling the TVs and VCRs of your friends to get more drugs. Like he needed to stay in that spot mentally, so he went and snapped. But I honestly don't see how without something going on that he can just get back his position and be the first officer of the ship.
On a ship that has the mutineer and a POW?
What he did was so much worse than the mutineer, because the mutineer thought that she was saving the entire ship.
Oh, and he was clearly
and
just
everyone
functioning as for himself.
Clearly not just functioning for just himself and like maybe Burnham and Tyler there, but he was saying, hey, Federation, I know that you need this one ping only planet of yours to be able to detect where the Klingons are, but screw you, I'm here, I'm happy, I'm not getting your way.
Peace.
Yeah, I'm finally at peace, I can finally relax a little bit. So, you guys have to go on killing each other.
I am going to assume that he will be pardoned, because they are in a time of war and shit's about to go down, and that even though he was saying that was him, and that because he finally had a moment of peace, that was mind altering. Like it was that sudden shift,
like drugs.
Like drugs. That sudden shift of not being afraid, surged through his body and did act like a chemical change on his brain. And I mean, who's to say the Pavans didn't influence that? So as much as he thinks it was just him. I mean, you can be under the influence of something and think this is all coming from you, but you are under the influence.
Ooh, all right, let's explore that. So why would the Pavans... Do you think the Pavans purposefully tinkered with his brain to get them to stay?
I don't know if it was as far-reaching to affect everyone else, or if it was honestly just to help him. Because he had been asking them. He was begging them to help him.
So you think that they were just helping and not malevolent in there?
Yeah. Although, like, I'm still trying... I was really thinking the second time I watched the episode, like, what was this planet trying to do? Like, everything's in harmony with each other. It's all vibrating together and singing and la la la. And so let's build this big crystal spire and send this out into space.
Well, because
is it a hippie planet where it's like, yeah, we need to spread the love, man?
It's not only a hippie planet, it's a hippie lazy planet. They don't want to go out and explore. They want to bring people to them. So that's why they built that transmitter, so people would discover them and come and talk to them and visit their yurt.
We got yurts.
I totally understand the need for creating an environment that people that you want to come and entertain feel at home in. But I mean, why like a big tent thing? And like there was clearly cloth on the door thing. Like, why would they need that? And how would they be able to produce that?
They're energy beings.
They just themselves up a cloth door?
Maybe.
Yeah, right.
Maybe they have matter energy conversion as like a natural occurring evolution thing.
Well, that would be cool.
It would be cool. Cooler than one ping only.
Hey, one ping only is pretty cool. You can detect a Klingon anywhere in space.
Is that what they like? What was exactly the plan? Like,
well, they were going to take the MacGuffin A and put it into MacGuffin B, and then cancel out.
And they were going to hit it like a tuning fork, and it was just going to throughout the thing, and all the Klingon spaceships were going to light up because they had this like frequency bouncing back off of them. Like that. Yeah. That was the thing.
Yeah, technically, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they think they're better than Data, making his little tachyon net thing and all. Actually, that was the Forge too. Helped him, didn't he? And anyway, I'm digressing.
I thought they just needed to trail
invert the tachyon beam.
No, they tracked the exhaust in 6.
Yeah, with the tailpipe.
Yeah,
with the ship that could fire when cloaked. Oh. Damn it! You kept talking, and I thought of something that you wanted that I wanted to say. I really do. I need like a pensive to be able to put my thoughts in as you're going. Thing. Yeah, I really do. Damn.
Fandom's coming out of the wazoo now.
But these cloaks, I do like how they seem to be using the cloaks more tactically. The Klingons are now. What are you doing?
I'm looking at the chat.
Stop looking at the chat. No, I'm just kidding. I like how the Klingons seem to be using the cloaks more tactically.
Instead of just like flying in and decloaking and being like, "We're gonna shoot you up now."
Mm-hmm. You hit the thing behind you. Your video's off now.
My video's off now.
Yeah, you got. There's. I don't know what's happening.
Well, I'm gonna answer your brother why you fixed me. And the answer to your
Okay.
question, Mike, is Adam calls the plan that they had with the Pavan planet using the sound of the planet as a sonar the one ping only plan. And so it should sound just like that. One ping only.
Yeah.
Sean Connery.
He got the reference.
He did, indeed.
And a good podcast producer would pop in a little image of Captain America being, I got that reference. We need someone just sitting on the side, just popping up memes the whole time.
Nice.
No, that would be incredibly boring. Who wants to do that?
One ping.
All right, so Saru, and I absolutely loved how visceral everything he did to stay there was. We already talked about the donkey kick, and that's fine. But the fact that he took those communicators and smashed them like empty beer cans, and just beat on that tech box that they plugged into that thing. It was just glorious. So he just kept going at it. And like, I mean, even there was the point that Tyler goes and gets out her phaser and he just smacks it away, and then he keeps pounding on with the fist and isn't like, wait, I could go over there and get that and just blow this thing up. And then we'd be all done. Nope, my fists are right here.
I want to hit it. I noticed details about Saru because he was on screen so often. Like his fingers were like if you took hooves and made them into fingers, because like his nails looked like hoof material.
Yeah,
it was so like neat to like look at that and really examine how.
I wonder if he uses those whenever he wants to sneak out and he goes like he like hops up on them and come on, baby, don't do that.
No,
you just have the image of Saru hopping up on his hands and.
I do not.
Nuts.
I did see someone mention somewhere that if he is this badass, like he can run super speed, he's got super strength, he can hear and smell and touch and feel, and everything is super. What do the apex predators on his planet look like? Because they sound really effing scary.
Yeah, I was actually having thoughts about that. He said that his race was bred and to evolve this way, right?
They were bred as cattle.
Yeah. I think that like one of the races that we already came across that's like a big hunter species, like Predator. Different universe, I know. Shut up. But one of those type of ones like bred him, like Predators bred him for
sport.
Yeah.
Oh,
that'd be cool, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Kind of like how the alien they went hunting the alien.
I think that needs to be on an episode. Well, and I will say the book gave us a little bit more background on Saru, and I'm interested to discuss that later on. Because he is the only Kelpian in Starfleet.
Yeah, I heard that before they said that.
And
even though every ship should have one.
And he was rescued off of his planet. And that's pretty much.
Is he the only Kelpian off his planet?
It feels like that's true.
Aww. Wait, Starfleet wouldn't have gone and been like, hey, you got these sentient guys that you're hunting. We kind of got to put a stop to that.
Well, there's no details into how he was rescued. That's the thing. Like, I mean, maybe they like snuck in there and they rescued him and they shouldn't have, or maybe...
Was he rescued from Kelpia?
I do not know. It sounded like he was, though.
Okay.
I would like more Saru. I'd like more stories and background.
Always more Saru.
About Saru. He is an interesting character, and we saw an interesting turn to him this episode.
Yeah, the fact that he can go that dark is pretty.
They have definitely set up an intertwined story with Burnham. Because honestly, I was telling you, my reaction to him being on this ship at all was kind of like, what? Like, why would badass Lorca want this guy there? Like,
yeah,
that was especially as his number one. Like, although Lorca doesn't use him as like, he definitely doesn't have that tight relationship that most Starfleet captains that we have seen have had with their number one. I can't remember. Like, does he even call him number one?
I think at some point he did. But yeah, it's definitely Lorca's ship, and Lorca's in charge of everything, as evidenced by him getting Burnham.
Yes.
Burnham.
Burnham.
I made that problem today. Listening to a podcast, someone said that, and I was like, Berman, yeah, he's the creator of the thing. He named that. Oh, so now I'm hosed with names. But yeah, and believe me, I can understand that people might be weirded out by having someone like Saru on the ship, someone that's afraid all the time. But I like him because he's me. He be me, except traveling in space and really fast.
It's. I think there's a lot to explore with his character. Definitely, like maybe seeing the species that bred them, or maybe that species is extinct. Maybe they had been bred, and now they're the only survivors. So now they're just this like scared group of.
Nice. Maybe the Kelpians realized one day, hey, we can kick them and knock their heads clean off their bodies.
We're incredibly strong.
Oh, yes. Watch what I can do with my fist. Anywho. All right. So briefly, I want to touch on next week's episode. Now, before we dive into that too much, I thought that during the Battle of the Binary Stars, when they went and took that photon torpedo and jammed it into that dead Klingon, and they got it on the sarcophagus ship, that it exploded and like essentially
decapitated the ship.
Yeah. So how is that ship still like awesome and everything? And how did it survive floating in space for 6 months?
Hard work and elbow grease.
Elbow grease.
Lots of it. I think Klingons produce an excess of elbow grease.
Do they? Because they don't really seem to have any pores.
Maybe they're all on their elbows.
Oh, nice. Maybe they're the species that originated those jackets with the patches. Yeah.
They were professor. Somehow it got subverted into professor jackets. They were actually warrior jackets.
Yes. Nice. Jeez.
Yeah, I would have to go back now and look at that first episode and see how much damage they actually did. Because the idea was to decapitate the ship. But maybe they just kind of blew a hole in the jugular, and that.
I really feel like I remember like a part of that ship coming off.
Well,
but anyway,
it's been months, and Cole probably came, with food and engineers
and a spare bridge.
Bridge.
Let me just slap this on here.
Right on here.
Yeah, here you have this Renaissance Fair turkey drumstick.
No, it's clearly the bridge that was there originally, because Burnham in the preview was all like, I know this bridge, I saw it. It's like 14 times the size of a Starfleet bridge.
Is that what she said? 14 times the size of a bridge? I thought that. All right. Anyway, I don't want to go.
I can't remember if 14 was. I felt like 14 was the number she said, but or maybe it was 4. But whatever.
I thought I heard her say 4 times the size of a Starfleet vessel. And I was like,
I thought she said bridge. I thought she was talking specifically about the bridge, because whatever things they're gonna try and stick onto their ship. I mean, obviously, her and Ash are gonna stealthily beam aboard or something. Excuse me.
Yeah. So all right. So yeah, it looks that definitely seems like what's gonna happen based on the After Trek sneak peek that we got. That part wasn't in the preview.
Well, in the preview, we saw him and her beam aboard.
Oh, yeah, we saw them on the ship, but they gave us a little bit more info as to how they got there. Not like they weren't captured. They went there to try and sabotage in some way.
They brought wooden shoes.
They did, fling them in. So they get the sarcophagus ship to a point where they've destroyed the shields so that they can beam in. But instead of just shooting it more, they decide to get on that ship for some reason. Because you can't beam through shields. That's the whole point of shields.
True.
So, let's see how that goes. Although, a lot of people were complaining this week about how the Discovery must not have the greatest of shields. Because they seem to take like about 4 hits and their shields were down to 10%. And like the Discovery class of ship seems to be a lot smaller than the Constitution class and things that were developed for war, which kind of makes it terrible that that's the size ship that they went with for the Spore Drive. But
I don't know if the Constitution class was developed for war.
Well, it was developed to take more than 4 hits from Klingon ships.
Well, it was probably just, yeah. I mean, the Klingons had been around, but the Constitution class was around before the war started.
Yes, yeah. But what I mean is, I don't even know what I meant anymore. All right, we'll
it
move
was just the next line of ship that they made, bigger and badder. And
yeah.
even though the Starfleet's main goal is exploration, it doesn't hurt to make your ships a little more hardy. And I think they had been designed to do longer missions farther out.
Yeah, they were supposed to do the 5-year mission.
They were probably designed to just be more rugged, but with no ready room in the back of the bridge.
Well, but because they weren't going to need a lot of meetings. They weren't very meeting centric. No one there on that ship had the little coffee thing that said this should have been an email.
That's from the book. The thing that it just was very funny to me. It's like they can't take a secure message while they're on the bridge. Well, if not everyone on the bridge is cleared for it. And so then they have to literally run to their quarters to answer a message.
I don't understand why they wouldn't have everyone on the bridge be cleared for any message, virtually any message that could get.
How many episodes have you seen where some admiral has come aboard and been like, you can't tell anyone else this? To Picard or Kirk. There's constantly things that are higher than the...
All right. Valid point. Yeah, so a lot of people are also saying that this episode was supposed to originally have been the last episode before the fall, the winter break. And it was. They did add an episode here on this end. But I think that maybe, because this episode was super short. Which is funny, because it sounded like a lot of stuff got left on the editing room floor. It sounded that way, and like I think that they broke up like a longer 2-episode one, 2-episode length one, and that's why they ended up cutting a lot of stuff. Like they had a bigger episode that was like an hour and 20 minutes. And instead of doing one big hour and 20-minute episode, they ended up cutting that in half and making it 2 episodes, so you would get more episodes in. But they had already edited it
so
and cut out.
Stick back in the...
Yeah, which kind of sucks. But of course, I may be just talking out my ass. So who knows? All right. All right. That wraps it up for our little go to warp section. So this time I'm gonna not know where I'm going. And I'm going to hit this and this, and now we're going to see if we can detect any spatial anomalies, because we're dorks that way. Let's change that back to that. So, in our this is the section where we just talk about general Star Trek related stuff, and we didn't even really have much of anything. I don't even know if we want to talk about that there. So this week there wasn't a lot of non-Star Trek stuff in the news. So now is when we give everyone all the warnings and say, hey, listen, if you don't feel like being spoiled for anything that's like nothing written in stone and we haven't seen anything yet, this is the time that you're going to want to bail out. But just pretend that we made a little siren sound in the background. Good producer would have sound effects too. But we are now in our Black Alert section where we talk about theories and weirdness that may be out there. So, of course, our biggest discussion point all the time on the Black Alert segment is the Voq theory that he is really Ash Tyler.
Because he totally is. He just totally is. This is actually happening. It's got to be.
It's got to be something. Like, Tyler definitely has to be some way, because there's no explaining around the fact that he said he survived 7 months on that prison ship because he was banging L'Rell, because there's no way L'Rell was there that whole time.
Yep.
So at a minimum, there's something going on there. Now, it may not be as cool as what we want.
It's gotta be. It's gotta be. In light of the IMDb page of the guy who played Voq, in light of and I like what I really think is awesome is that I think all of this inside the show and out has been scripted. Like, I think they have planted all of it just to make it a bigger mystery and to make it a little more fun. I truly think that's what they've done.
I think so too.
Down to this interview that Shazad Latif was doing, that Jason Isaacs had to come in and blah, 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 about. I swear I think all of it is just
Yeah, so we're talking about this past week. The Radio Times was interviewing Shazad Latif because the lovers and the captain, and also who else was it that went? I just did his name. I just wrote his Aaron Herbert's producer for the show, where it went around in Europe to do a press tour about it, and Shazad Latif was getting interviewed. And he was real peppy during the beginning part of the interview, as the actors are supposed to be, because they're trying to sell their show to people and get them to come out and watch it. And everything was going great. And then the interviewer asked him, "So, have you ever met the actor that plays Volk?" I can't say the name. I can say the name. It's not Voldemort.
Iqbal.
Oh, maybe it's Voldemort.
Something Iqbal or Iqbal something.
Yeah. Did you ever meet the actor that plays Volk? And immediately Shazad Latif's demeanor changed, and he gets quiet and moody and sullen, and is like, "Yeah, well, there's lots of people and we don't meet them all." And he was in the Klingon face stuff, so I don't even know if I'd recognize him if we did the thing. And then Jason Isaacs comes in and saves him, because he's like, "Haha, I know how to talk about non-spoilery stuff. I worked on Harry Potter." Everyone was trying to get all the info there.
I mean, that's that's a good question to ask. Is Shazad Latif that bad of an actor? He's an actor, so you would think that they would if prepped, that they'd be able to roll with this, not this spoiler that they know they are trying to protect, and not get weird about it. Or was he told to get weird about it? Is it all scripted?
It
that's
very well
the thing.
could
be. I think it could be, and kudos to the producers, because I find it interesting. I find it kind of fun.
And even if it wasn't initially scripted, and there really is a good explanation for it, then good on them for keeping with it and not just marching out whoever the actor is that played him, because they could totally have him come out now and be doing interviews and everything, and it would kind of be a big thing, and they would get a PR hit for it, because that would be like, "Oh, Volk theory debunked." Mm-hmm. So they're just not the only thing out there is that fake Twitter account. That's great. So
no, I totally think that Volk is Ash Tyler. I also totally think that it is going to be, because the timeline is that it's about 3 weeks that they had to convert him from Volk into Ash Tyler, and she told him when he was being left behind by Cole of House Core.
Correct.
That there's a way to get your vengeance and to do the thing you want to do, but it's gonna mean that you have to give up everything about yourself. Yeah. And I think that because of her family's being spy masters, that she brought him back to their homeworld, to the matriarchs, and they used the MacGuffin generator, and were now he's Ash Tyler, he's smooth, because Volk just was so awkward.
He was,
and it was you would never expect someone like that to be able to infiltrate and pretend. So I assume that they were able to do something to him that allowed him to.
I think that they have a version of the Mind Sifter that's seen later in the original series, and that there really was a Ash Tyler, and they sucked his brain out of his head and jammed it into Volk's. And I think that they had to full-on Manchurian Candidate him, that he doesn't even know who he is. He really thinks he's Ash Tyler. That's why Laurel has to get to the ship.
She's got a code word.
Yes.
I love this.
But yeah, so that's about the only thing that explains why Laurel was so back and forth, kind of with what was going on with her this week. Her storyline right now, and how much she was bouncing back and forth between willing to kneel for Cole, and swearing vengeance on Cole, and want to go away with the Admiral to try and get onto the Discovery. It just seemed like she was all over the place, and I'm worrying that in an effort to make the aha moment of when Tyler is found out as Volk, I think they're being too nebulous now with what she's doing and like her motivations for what she's doing. We're right now assuming that it's all centered on that Voke is that, and that she's trying to get there. But if that turns out not to be the case, and I don't know, to me this episode with her seemed a little bit haphazard.
I don't think so. I think she had singleness of purpose, and survival is the top of the list. And so whether she is surviving because she needs to get to Ash/Voke to complete that plan, or whether she is surviving because she wants vengeance on Cole and she still wants to somehow, unify the Klingon Empire, but not under him, by some other means. Because, one of those means may be capturing the Discovery. Like, if she rode in on the Discovery into the Klingon Empire, into Kronos, and was like, yeehaw, bitches, then she could, delegitimize Cole's power and maybe start to unify anyone under them. So I think that she was just being a survivor. So even though she has honor, like right now, her job is to survive, because she is one amongst many who are basically enemies of hers.
Okay.
So I don't really feel like she was back and forth. I think she was just being a spy, and she was trying to be whatever the person who was currently looking at her needed her to be. Cole wanted her to be loyal, and so she was trying to do that. Admiral Cornwell wanted her to be, a savior to get off the ship. So I feel like that was what she was doing.
I'm just worried that there's going to be a whole episode in the second half of the season that's going to be like where they do the Ocean's 11 thing, where they show you how everything played out, and like her going back to her quarters and like going over the plan, like she walks in there and there's like plans and everything written on chalkboards and everything. And
Klingons don't write shit down.
Mm-hmm.
Klingons don't write shit down.
Well, they don't. That stinks. So along the lines of Tyler being Voke, there is the possibility that he reworked the transmission package device thingy that Burnham plugged into the transmitter to try and send a signal to the Klingons, because it may not be just straight up that those energy beings went and called them. I mean, it is a possibility. I
don't know, because she's the one who connected it. And
she's the one who connected it, but maybe he reprogrammed what the actual message was, and since she was under such time constraints...
Well, they weren't trying to send a message. They were trying to use it as a...
All right, reprogram the one ping only to, instead of one ping only, be like, hey, Klingons, come and blow up this planet.
Nah, I think the Pavans are overconfident. I think their goal of harmony amongst all, it's like, hey, man...
It's all good.
You just all come and we'll talk about this.
We're energy and trees.
Yeah,
and somehow, even though all this...
We got yurts for everyone.
Nice.
Let's just come and talk about it, and I think you'll find that we can all live in harmony.
Word. So, all right, so that about does it for our Voke chit-chat during the Black Alert?
Yeah.
Nothing else. All right. So the other thing that came out of this European swing for PR was Aaron Harberts. I'm very sorry if I'm saying your name wrong, sir.
Looks pretty much like Harberts.
Yeah. All right. One of the things that came out during one of the interviews was that he mentioned that each season of the show was essentially going to be a novel. And this harkens back to when the show was initially introduced. It was introduced as more like how American Horror Story is handled, and how each season wasn't really supposed to have much of an interaction with other seasons, and they could have gone and told a totally different story for season 2. This is along the lines that like each season they want it to be a thing, not where they build on it season to season, like Game of Thrones. Every season impacts the next one, but Now, I mean, of course, there will be some impacts, but this season is known as the war novel in the Discovery writers area. So I thought that that's good, and I'm covering this here because just in case people didn't want to be spoiled for that one. But I think that's good that we're going to have some kind of resolution to this season, because they kind of have to be, because we want to get done with the Klingon War.
Mm-hmm.
And
I don't want to watch people in war times for.
Yeah, even though they're not really, I don't feel like they're doing a great job selling we're at war.
Well, I think because Discovery was at first in the beginning, it was research, and like I was saying the other day that, I think the Federation has like all of these research plans, and it's just like maybe one of these will bear a positive fruit, and and that's why, because I mean I've asked before why they would give something as important as a super secret alternative warp drive to a captain who looks a little too singleness of purpose, and also had just lost his entire crew because he blew them up.
Because he gets shit done, and this ship already had a crew. New crew for him to blow up.
New crew for him to blow up. And I think part of it is it was his ability to maybe redeem himself a little bit, and also I think the Spore Drive was just one of many experiments. Right. I think the Spore Drive was like the Manhattan Project, and there were 15 other things that they were doing research on to try and turn the tide of the war.
I'll buy all that, and that's good for the beginning part of it. But now they've been at war for quite a while. With the Spore Drive working, and like not only like on the ship they had that when they had the disco party, like we saw the one guy that had been wounded, and we saw Tyler's big speech when he was standing on the table, but they that was like them telling us, and like they showed us one guy. They didn't really show us an impact from the war much of an impact from the war.
That episode started with Burnham telling us that this is how the war is going,
and we're winning now. So yay!
The Discovery's turned the tide because now we've got our Spore Drive up and running. But I think there's only so much they can show us, because again, I don't want to watch a war. I don't want to watch a war show of Star Trek, and they showed us a little bit of that.
I want to watch a war show of Star Trek.
They showed a little bit of that in the beginning of this episode, where they jumped in to try and save the Gagarin, and that didn't go so well. And so, like, I don't mind seeing those little snippets. I don't need big battle episodes all the time. Like, maybe there will be. We had a giant one at the very beginning with the Battle of the Binary Stars.
I think this next episode,
next episode is definitely going to be a skirmish between the sarcophagus ship and them, and so there might be another large battle later in the season. I mean, but just like Game of Thrones, there wasn't giant battles every other episode.
No, but
and there were clearly wars going on during those seasons.
Yeah, and you had interactions with characters that were affected by the war, and you had them talking about family that they lost, and bills that they had to pay, and plans that they were trying to make.
Okay, I get what you're saying.
But nothing's perfect.
I read something that I think would be interesting, and
Tale of Two Cities.
That was a couple of years ago. And it also leads into I think one of the complaints that people have about Discovery, in that the show is very much about like Burnham and Saru and Lorca, like these four main characters that are kind of.
Well, yeah, it's supposed to be Burnham's show.
Yes, and so we don't really know a lot about the bridge crew, which is usually how a Star Trek has played before. We know everyone on the bridge, and we see all of their little stories.
Well, we don't know everyone on the bridge. We know more usually than we know now. But there, on Next Generation, there was always miscellaneous people on the bridge when stuff was going down.
There was one miscellaneous station, and that was the Helms. And then Wesley ended up being there from just about all the time when he became more permanent. But there were more people than we knew now. So there's Detmer and there's Arium, and I mean there's a bunch of people. So what I read and I thought would be really neat, if one of these episodes when they need to take a break from all of the hard hitting stuff, is they did like a Lower Decks type episode.
Yeah.
And we just saw them talking about how Lorca's crazy and he can't believe he brought all these people on board, like the mutineer and the POW.
Yeah, that'd be cool. I would like to see that, but
because Detmer was directly affected by Burnham because she was the helmswoman from the Shenzhou.
That's where she got her.
That's where she got her
medal.
Her medal.
Well, she
medal
did.
eye surround. So I think that would be interesting to hear more of them.
Yeah,
that would be, not that I think that I like the show and I like the way it's being presented and I like the characters that it's honing in on, but I would also like to just see a little bit more fleshing out of the other characters.
I would like to see that too, but they have to make decisions on what they're going to show because they only give 15 episodes the season and they have a true story to tell, not because of its serialized nature and it's not episodic, so they can't just, instead of going to a planet one episode, do a Lower Decks thing because they have this war novel that they need to tell this season.
Yeah.
So that's why I think they stray away from that. And that's a complaint that I hear a lot of different things. Like people were saying that this Saru in this episode, and there should have been an episode only dedicated to that and no other business going on outside of it, and it should have centered on, like, they should have beamed down, they should have been following that away team the whole time, and it's like they can't do everything to the full extent.
Yeah, and I think it would have been boring. Like, I don't think
you shut your mouth.
I don't think
made it awesome.
Entire episode of them on the yeah, I don't think that would be.
All right. So I still do want to discuss. There's a thing with Stamets that I want to discuss in the Black Alert, but we do have two questions in the chat.
We do.
Yes. Someone's asking, do we think we will see Harry Mudd again?
Yes.
And yeah, because he was like slotted for like 5 episodes this season. So, and he's only been in. I
looked it up on IMDb.
2. Yeah. And someone may not have cared and looked it up a long time ago before anything was going on.
Yeah, so he's 2 down, 3 to go.
Yeah, so he will definitely be.
He's a tasty bad guy. Like, I think that he's delicious. He is, and Rainn Wilson is doing a phenomenal job of being him. He's not quite the rotund goofball that he is in the original series. He has been affected by the war. I mean, there's someone who definitely gave us an insight into his reaction. So he's a little more sinister, but he's playful as Rainn Wilson can be. So I do like that. I do like what they've done.
Well, he was playful right up until the point where he killed Lorca 53 times.
Playfully killed Lorca.
Yeah. Whee! I wonder what this does. And also, how do you see the season end cliffhangers? And well, yeah, there's going to be cliffhangers for the season end or the winter break.
So this weekend coming up is the mid-season finale, they call it.
Right.
And it will certainly have some sort of cliffhanger to pick up in January. But
as long as they stick with the. Good, sorry.
As long as they stick with the what?
As long as they stick with their each season will be a novel.
Yeah, but the end of the season should be a resolution.
Should wrap up.
Then hopefully the next season will pick up with different peeps.
Unless it does the thing that a lot of shows does, where they wrap up all the plot lines for that season, and then the last like 45 seconds is like some weird guy coming up out of the muck and mire of a river near the end of the city. And oh, look, this is going to be the bad guy for the next season. Ooh, who is that? Yeah. Like Supergirl did that at the end of their first season when they had Mon-El show up. Like everything
crash landed.
Yeah, everything was all wrapped up and on. Oh, look, this thing crash landed. And Legends of Tomorrow did that with some guy showing up in the last like 45 seconds, literally. So hopefully they do that. He said the break. Yeah. Before the end of the break, there will be. I don't even know if it'll be cliffhangers necessarily, but because personally, I'm rooting for some kind of a fairly large reveal. Either the reveal about Voke, or even maybe not the full reveal, but maybe like it ends with Laurel saying that she has someone on the Discovery that she's working with, and then who is it? But of course, we'll know who it really is. Or in the other thing, if they want to drag out the Vogue thing, it could be the Mirror Universe could pop in there, which is why I wanted to circle
back to Stamets.
Circle back around to Stamets, because I still believe that there's a very good chance that we're getting two different Stametses at different times. The Huggy Feely Stamets, which is from another universe, and the Prickly Stamets, which is Persnickety Stamets.
That's Tilly called him.
And that we know and love.
Know and love?
Yeah, so I definitely feel that, because there was clearly, like, there's been other allusions to the mirror universe of people looking in bulkheads and stuff, but they clearly had him looking in the mirror and he walked away and his reflection was still there. So that
was just weird.
That was 100% a thing. And something else happened that along the lines of the show buying into the whole Vogue theory thing and keeping it going, where this is just a me thought, but the actor that plays Colmets.
The actors play Colmets?
No, Colmets. Look, I'm using their.
I'm about to say that's the
ship name.
Yeah, Culber.
He before this past week's episode, he was doing his smart actor thing of sending out tweets that said, "Hey, make sure you watch Star Trek Discovery this week," and he shot out a picture of him in that scene with Tilly and Stamets in the cafeteria, where he was sitting there, and obviously that never aired. So I think maybe that they're trying to be like, ooh, there's the mirror universe thing, where in the other universe the three of them were there for that discussion, but in this universe they weren't. It could be.
I think that's a little bit of a stretch.
It's a huge stretch, but it's one I enjoy making. It really gets to the deep part of the back. All right. So I think that we may have finally run out of topics to talk about.
Things to gab about?
Well, I mean, that's never going to happen.
I think that we would be remiss if we did not mention how...
Oh, boy.
Well, because the name of the podcast, we did see the Ganglia come out.
Yes.
It came out when
that was something I wanted to talk about.
Tyler failed the lie detector stone.
But it wasn't destined to be. Sorry, I didn't mean to shout over you there. But like, I remembered one of those pensive things came back. That wasn't intended to be a lie detector stone. Like, Saru didn't go and get that and be like, I don't like what you're telling me. Here, put your hand on this and raise your right hand while you're doing it. Like,
well, but I mean, if he had come over to him and said, "This is going to test if you're telling the truth," I'm pretty sure Tyler would try not to touch it. But that's why he presented it the way he did. You
think?
Yeah. If you want to know if someone's telling you the truth or not, you're not going to tell them, "I don't think you're telling me the truth."
Well, okay, yes, that part is true. But I still don't think that Saru's intention was, hey, let me get this rock and see if he's telling me the truth. Because his threat ganglia wasn't out yet. I think that they were having a bro discussion about feelings and everything, and Saru was trying to use the rock to get Tyler more in touch with what the planet was trying to do for him. And a lucky coinky dink side effect for Saru was that they like joined up mentally for a moment, and he saw that he was being deceived. That's what I thought it was.
And that's why his threat and ganglia popped out.
Right.
And they probably popped out because the threat is bigger than just he's distracting you for Burnham to go do her thing.
Yeah. Yes. That's where I think Tyler really lucked out, because. But and that even leads more to him being like a Manchurian candidate, Vogue, because otherwise Vogue would have done like everything in his power, be like, I'm not touching this thing that can like link us in any way, so you can see anything into my head. I wouldn't like that. And that's why Saru's threat Ganglia doesn't come out every time he comes around, because what's his name doesn't know that he's a bad guy, so he doesn't really pose a threat to Saru. Right? She didn't like that one either.
Yeah, I don't know. I think the threat Ganglia are
awesome.
They are, but I think they're also a little bit of a MacGuffin.
Yeah,
because, like, they can't. They would be out a lot more if they really could detect just danger, just a threat.
Yeah. Oh, and I didn't even mention how when they got beamed back from the planet that Saru's like crumpled up appearance on the transporter pad, like so closely mirrored Burnham when she like broke down when she got beamed out of the sarcophagus ship when Captain Giorgio was killed. Like it looked like way a lot the same, and like it was the same way like in the first one Saru transported her out, and this one Burnham like got the signal through to Discovery to pull them out. So it was the opposite, but like granted Burnham's one would have just been a body recovery thing at this point. But there was a Tribble on board. No, that was the other ship. Sorry.
That's right. I mentioned to you that Lorca does have a Tribble in his.
Oh yes.
And I mean, it was visible. It was on screen because it sits on his desk. And cool. Twice while he was talking to Admiral Vulcan.
Yeah, and it had definitely been missing.
You went back and watched the Ready Room.
A couple episodes. Yeah, like lots of people were talking about it. Lots of people were saying. Sound like a politician now. People are saying that. But now my question is why isn't his Ready Room being overrun by Tribbles? Just like how After Trek is doing. Don't think we don't see that and appreciate it, Matt Myra. Good job.
They've been adding Tribbles to the.
Oh yeah, in the background underneath the table, there's been more and more Tribbles every time they've been doing it.
They must have got into the quadriticale.
Well, no, because then they'd be dead.
Well, they ate until they like.
Well, but the quadriticale was poisoned. That was the whole thing.
Well, yeah, but that's what I'm saying. Like they must have got into another, not poisoned. The stuff that they would eat, and I always got the feeling that the Tribbles were like
goldfish.
No, they were like Mogwai. They're like gremlins. They eat and they multiply.
All right, everyone, turn your volume down. I've never really seen Gremlins. All right, Dad. She took that better than I thought she would.
And you call yourself a child of the 80s. I mean...
Yeah.
I don't think you can anymore.
We can't be into everything that's out there.
Well, but you should have at least seen it.
Well, I mean, I've seen parts of it. I know there's something about water.
Oh.
And feeding them. Don't scratch behind their ears, maybe?
No, they like getting scratched behind their ears.
Do they really? Did I just manage to pull a thing?
I don't know. It's been a long time since.
All right, good. I was just thinking of a silly third thing to say.
Nice.
Yeah, but quadriticale probably doesn't even exist yet because wasn't that a new thing that they were putting on to Sherman's planet?
I like when you said that.
I think that's the name of it.
I don't know. I would assume that Lorca knows how to keep his Tribble from multiplying beyond what he wants.
I still think that Lorca has other animals tied up in his menagerie, tied up behind a force field, same thing. And he uses all the new Tribbles that come about to feed him.
Oh, good Lord.
That's what I think. Some of them, they want to hunt, even though Tribbles just sit there. Oh, shit. Woo! All right, I think we're done.
Yeehaw!
All right, so what are we rediscussing here? This week, Sunday is the
mid-season finale.
Mid-season finale. So we'll be back next week with another one of these shit shows. And then the following Sunday, hopefully we're going to stream right when Star Trek Discovery is supposed to be on, would be on if they really loved us as fans and made an episode every week. But we will do a little, a super brief overview of the book and hopefully trying to get you guys pumped up about it enough to go out and buy it and maybe read and follow along. Again, that's what's the name of that book there?
Star Trek Discovery: Desperate Hours by David Mack.
Dun, 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 dun. All right. So you did a theme song for us to go in. You got something for us to play us out with? That is apparently no. Oh, no, we can't afford this. Go away. Stop. Stop. All right. Bye, everyone. Thanks for watching. Bye.